The census is so important. And I think sometimes because it only happens once every 10 years, and it's been happening for so long that sometimes we forget and we don't completely understand the reason that we go through this exercise every 10 years. It has a huge impact on our state. We need to really focus on a grassroots effort. Georgetown is such a wonderful part of the state. So I was really sad to see, as you heard, how underperforming Georgetown has been. You know, Georgetown is a coastal region, and you're not alone. A lot of our coastal regions, their census count, their voluntary count is rather low. We need our census numbers to be high because it helps fund programs for education. It helps fund programs for our seniors. The biggest part of money that comes to Department of Aging comes from the federal government. And that's how we develop programs for seniors all around the state. Our roads and bridges, our infrastructure, so many things, higher education, funded by our numbers count with the census. One thing that makes the census very real to us, you've all been hearing about the $1.9 billion we received in the CARES Act funding from the federal government to reimburse localities and businesses that were directly impacted by additional expenses related to COVID-19. That $1.9 billion was calculated based on 2010 census numbers. Now, you might think, wow, that's a lot of money. That was great. Our 2010 census must have been really well. We must have did really well. Well, based on the information from the Census Commission, South Carolina was upwards of 20% undercounted in 2010. So obviously you can see, even though it was a lot of money, South Carolina could have done better to help meet the needs of what we faced here over the last few months during this pandemic. Something that's very near and dear for Georgetown and all of our coastal cities is hurricane season. Funding that we get from FEMA during times of weather disasters like that, that funding is calculated by our census numbers. So lots of reasons Georgetown wants to really have a high standing. Something we talked about, I'm sure you all kept up on the governor's task force with Accelerate SC. One thing that came up over and over again in almost all 5 of the subcommittees was our need for broadband. This pandemic really has shined a light on areas of our state that are in need of better broadband. So we uncovered, we've known about it, but lots of people did their homework and uncovered all kinds of pots of money from the federal government that are available to our state to help reach broadband, especially to our rural communities, communities that have been notoriously hard to serve where it comes to broadband. That all that money, all that funding that can come to us is all based on our participation in the census. So the census only happens once every 10 years, and we can't go back and change what happened in 2010, but we can do better going forward. Numbers that we collect from now through October 31st, that will be what we will have to live with for the next 10 years. So most of you know me. I'm an accountant by trade, and so I like to do this little numbers calculation for everybody I'm with, because it shows the magnitude of the census and the amount of funding we get here at a state level. So for every person that logs in and gets counted, the state receives just a little bit shy of $3,000 per person. Well, if 100 people do not fill out the census, over 10 years, the state loses $3 million on those 100 people. That's the magnitude of this. And I think when you put things into numbers, it really puts it into perspective. I really believe that there isn't a person who wouldn't fill it out if they really knew the benefits that come to their area if they did.